Patrick Netherton Show, 11:30 The Tiger. He's Rogers. I'm Patrick. Hope everyone is doing well. Pleased to be joined by one of the best Saints writers in the game, covering all things New Orleans Saints. She is Katherine Terrell from The Athletic in New Orleans. Please have her on with us. Katherine, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm good. What's the mood of the city? I know we're in Mardi Gras season again, and again, didn't seem like anything really got to go on. No big parades or whatever, things like that. What's the mood of the city with once again Mardi Gras being basically shut down?
Kind of a bummer. It's kind of sad because the weather is now beautiful, and all the St. Patrick's Day parades just got canceled. To be completely honest, I thought they were canceled weeks ago, but I guess it was official today. So it's just kind of sad. It's like one more event we don't get to participate in. Hopeful for next year, but we'll keep on keeping on. But yeah, definitely a bummer.
Yeah, especially when you're in a place like New Orleans, which is one of those cultural hotbeds, to have some of that culture taken away, especially a couple of years in a row now. I know is not a lot of fun. So are you able to relax at any point in time? I mean, it seems like right when you think everything is okay and we're just kind of hanging out waiting on Drew Brees to retire, all of a sudden, Russell Wilson says he'd go to the Saints. Like, do you get a chance to relax? Because it seems like there's some sort of breaking news every other day.
Yeah, if you're an NFL reporter, especially one covering this team, you don't relax until April. So really June, but April is really the first time of the year I look at where I can maybe kind of tone it down a little bit, and then OTAs start, and then you get June, and then by that point afterwards it's training camp. So no, next week I guarantee you is going to be busy whether Brees retires or not. The Saints have a lot of moves to make. They have to get at the salary cap. Things are going to be happening, and you just kind of got to be ready at any moment for something to happen.
So what's your best bets on what moves they make to try to get that salary cap back under control?
Well, you'll see a lot of restructuring first. They'll take a lot of the players that have high base salaries, and what they do is they convert the salaries into signing bonuses, which essentially just kind of allows them to circumvent the salary cap in a way. You're still paying them the same amount. You're just spreading it over a couple of years. So they'll do that, and then they'll start looking at players that have high salaries and ask them to take pay cuts. And if they don't, they'll release them, or they'll release others no matter what. There's a bunch of potential cap casualties, and we'll see what happens. But, Thomas Morstead could be one of those. Janoris Jenkins, Quan Alexander, Malcolm Brown, just really any veteran player with a high salary. And it's never a fun time of the year because, it's always interesting because a lot of stuff is happening, but it's also a bummer because you get to know these players over the years, and this is the time of the year when, you kind of got to say goodbye to them. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what they do to get under the salary cap, but I definitely don't think it'll be quiet from here on out.
Yeah, you would imagine there's a lot of moves. Hey, what did I don't know how specific you want to get or into the details, but what did the Saints do by taking Drew Brees and turning his contract into a base salary contract?
Well, what he did was agree to reduce his base salary from I believe it was $25 million to the minimum. And the reason they do that is because what they're going to do with Drew Brees is once he announces that he's retiring, they're going to designate him a post-June 1st release or a post-June 1st retirement. And that means you take the remaining portion of his salary, his signing bonus, and you're able to spread it out over 2 years versus 1 year. Now, normally, when you cut a player and you've given him a big signing bonus and there's still some money remaining on it, you then have to account for that entire signing bonus remaining. So he has to stay on the roster for several months. The only way they're going to be able to sign free agents is if he did what he did and took a big pay cut. He's never going to see that pay cut, so it's it doesn't matter. But they came to this agreement, obviously, a few weeks ago, and to me, that's the sign that he's retiring, and it's just a matter of when he feels like announcing it.
Do you any idea? And I don't know. None of us are psychic, but any idea why he still hasn't announced it?
I really don't know. I have a lot of theories, but I don't have anything concrete other than maybe he's just enjoying his off season, and they're all on the same page, and he doesn't feel like he needs to publicly announce it yet. I don't know, but I mean, just by the very nature of them having done that pay cut, they've clearly discussed it, and they know where he stands at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that we had been talking about is no matter what he declares publicly, we're of the opinion that the Saints organization, Mickey Loomis, Sean Payton, and them, they've discussed it with Drew, and they know where he's going. Right, they know that he's planning on retiring.
Yeah, I absolutely believe they do. I don't think there's any doubt that they're not on the same page, and I don't see Brees making a decision and change. I mean, he's not going to now. Now, if he came back, I don't think it'd be with the Saints because Drew Brees is not going to play for the league minimum. He's just not. So he's either not playing for the Saints in 2021 or he's not playing at all. I mean, and he's already said he doesn't want to start over with another team.
Why,
so
here's the thing: why?
Yeah.
But why wouldn't he play for the league minimum? If he really was, all right, this is the last shot at glory. I'm going to take $1 million a year. Y'all put all the rest of the money you can into everyone you can get around me, and let's do it. To me, that makes more sense than him saying, "Okay, well, I'll take a $23 million salary."
But that's just not who he is. He's not going to do that.
I
if he was going to do that, he would have done it years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even just, okay, Brees wants to play for a certain amount of money. I get that. He's earned that. It's also like a precedent thing. I mean, Brees is very much about, he's gone to bat for certain things in his contract before that have changed how they operate a league-wide. A franchise tag is one of those. So when you all of a sudden they're saying, "Oh, I'll play for the league minimum," I think it probably in his mind and his agent's mind sets a bad precedent for other players. If that makes any sense, it's hard to explain, but it's kind of like you wouldn't want.
Well,
agents certainly wouldn't want to. But you wouldn't want to encourage other players to do that.
Well, it's basically dropping the neighborhood value, right? All the homes valued in the neighborhood. If I sell my house for $50,000 and all the rest of the houses are worth $400,000, well, I've just devalued the neighborhood.
Right, and the players like the NFLPA isn't. Well, I mean, he can do whatever he wants, but it's not something that other players would want, honestly, because they want to keep raising the bar higher.
Sure.
Now, at this point in his career and his age, maybe no one cares. Years ago, if he had taken less, like a much smaller contract, people might have thought that was weird. And I know you can point to Tom Brady, but the fact that people only point to Tom Brady shows how rare that is to take what is considered a below-market contract when you're a quarterback of such high tier.
Yeah, Brees. I mean, Brees has taken his last couple of deals have been for considerably less than he would be worth, just like Brady, just in order to put pieces around him. I mean, that's not a shocking thing. Hey, all right. So we mentioned Russell Wilson. That was the big news. The word is that he's disgruntled in Seattle. Not to say that they can't come to an agreement and he could be gruntled again in Seattle, but right now he's disgruntled. Is this a feasible option for the Saints? Can they put a deal together that would make them still a viable Super Bowl contender and still be able to give enough to the Seahawks to be able to get Russell Wilson?
I thought about it a lot, and first of all, I believe the Seahawks would have to eat $38 million in dead money if they traded him. So to me, that kind of makes it a moot point. But let's say that they didn't. I just wonder about why the Saints would want to do this when if Brees retires, they're finally getting out of this endless salary cap, finagling, pushing it down the road, whatever, that they've been in for years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Saints might not care about that at all. So then you trade for this expensive quarterback, and you're putting yourself right back in that position to, I guess, theoretically win now because they still have a very good team. Well, would they still want to be positioned to do that if they give away what they'd have to give away? Because I love when I see these trades because people think that the other team's just going to accept whatever their favorite team is proposing. So I'll see stuff like, oh, send them Taysom in a first-round pick or whatever. And I'll respond to that by saying, can you imagine what Seattle fans would say if they took the trade you're proposing? I think that you'd have to give them someone like Ramczyk. And I don't know Seattle's offensive line situation.
It's bad.
I'm just throwing him out there.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
it's
well,
not
you have
good.
to give him something like Ramczyk.
Yeah.
Okay, and you'd have to give him someone like Lattimore. And I'm trying to think of younger pieces that Seattle could use long-term to surround the next quarterback with. Now, some people might say, oh, Demario Davis, Teron Armstead. Well, I mean, they're older, so I don't know that they would be as attractive. And I just don't know. I don't think that it would be smart for the Saints, and I don't think it'd be viable. I think that it's in their best interest to find a young quarterback and build around them versus throwing the kitchen sink at, not that Russell Wilson is old, but an older quarterback.
Right. He's 32.
Cost a ton of money.
Yeah, he's 32. We actually had and I think this is just a fun thought discussion, and our producer Rogers is a big Houston Texans fan. Who asks for more? The Seattle Seahawks for Russell Wilson or the Houston Texans for Deshaun Watson? See, I think that's
a good question because sorry.
No, I think that's a fun thought exercise.
Don't seem interested at all. Well, yeah, because the Texans don't seem interested at all, and even discussing this. Apparently, people are leaving them voicemails now. That's what they've resorted to.
Right.
The Texans have had some weird trades. Now I know it's a new regime, so that might not happen anymore. But man, they have undervalued some of their players, I believe. So it'd probably be the Seahawks. Maybe it depends on how disgruntled the player is.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I would think that the Seahawks would ask for more.
Yeah. Deshaun Watson is much more disgruntled. You could see Russell Wilson being able to still play in Seattle, but it sure doesn't look like Deshaun Watson is playing another down for the Texans. We're talking to Katherine Terrell from The Athletic in New Orleans. All right, so what's the quarterback room next year for the Saints? We assume Jameis is coming back. We know Taysom is under contract. Do they go get somebody else? Do they draft somebody else? Do they just ride with those two and some practice squad guy? What's that room look like next year?
Well, I mean, it goes back to money again. I see all these big name free agents come up or quarterbacks that can be traded for, and I don't think that the Saints have that option. I think you go with either Jameis or Taysom, and maybe you bring in a cheap veteran guy, and you hope that Jameis signs for cheap. I mean, I actually threw out Chase Daniel as the third quarterback, and someone was like, "Really?"
Hey!
I said, "Well, it makes sense."
Let me tell you something. When people laugh at you for saying that, you tell them that's exactly what Patrick Netherton said about 30 minutes ago on the show.
It would make sense to me.
Yeah,
it really would.
And
third
by
quarterback,
the way,
he'd probably play for cheaper.
And by the way, nobody has made more money for playing less than Chase Daniel. I mean, that guy is,
but not with the Saints.
No,
his Saints contracts were his only contract where he got probably what he should get.
Yeah,
which is hilarious.
Which I believe is a 6-pack of Budweiser and a couple of snack packs.
Well, it's like he goes through these cycles, and the Saints just catch him either early or on the down cycle, and then he goes back up, and other teams are throwing money at him, and he doesn't play, and then he goes back down. So I feel like the Saints could catch him on a down cycle again. He could be the third quarterback and play for the league minimum. Who knows? It wouldn't surprise me. It would actually be the type of thing that makes total perfect sense to me.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a very unfair question, but I will tell you it's a very unfair question. Who's the starting quarterback in Game 1 for the Saints?
I mean, it kind of feels like it's going to be Jameis. I'm only saying that cautiously because I think that the idea that everyone the idea that Jameis will re-sign no matter what is funny to me because it's not how free agency works. But I think if the Saints have their way, just based on how everything seems to be trending, it's going to be Jameis. I mean, I think that it's in their best interest to have an open competition at training camp because I thought Jameis won that competition last training camp, and it's not how it worked out during the season, but I thought he had a better camp.
Ultimately, the reason I don't think the Saints go after any of these big-name quarterbacks, notwithstanding money or draft capital or trading away guys that are they're starters on your team, is I believe Sean has this belief in himself. And look, he's 8-1 with backup quarterbacks the last 2 years. I think he thinks I can win with whoever I've got at that position. That's how good I am.
But probably. I mean, they did win with both Taysom and Teddy. But, I mean, I had this argument with someone today. I said, they were saying, Taysom was 3-1 as a quarterback. And I said, no, the Saints were 3-1 in that period. I said the Saints won those games, just like the Saints won the games with Teddy at the helm. Those were team wins. Mm-hmm. You can't go tell me that Taysom won those games for them. I mean, the team is just good enough that they can win, or at the time they could win a lot of games with just an average quarterback. But it's not always going to be the case, especially when we're going to a year where things seem to be changing and your good players are aging, and they're either going to. I mean, it's quite possible they could fall off the cliff this year. I don't think they will. I think they do have a lot of young talent, but they gambled a lot last year on some older players, and with some of them lost, like Jared Cook. You kind of took a gamble that he was going to get, squeeze one more year out of him, and I think he started declining. Cam Jordan, I don't really know yet if that was just a down year or if it's the start of a decline, but if some of these players really fall off, really decline next year, it's going to be an interesting season. So I say that to say, I don't know if you can just throw anyone out there in 2021 and have the same results.
All right, we can't let you go without asking you something off the wall. Last time, by the way, I was at my barber shop getting my haircut a couple of days ago, and my barber, when I walked in, he just randomly clicked on an interview from my YouTube channel, and it was you. It was our last interview. I don't know why. Yeah, so I just got to enjoy our interview, and I had forgotten that we discussed Skyline Chili in the last interview.
It must have been about food.
Yeah, well, of course
Always
it is.
About food.
Always about food. Well, that leads me into this question. I'd asked my producer Rogers. Rogers is a heavy drinker, Budweiser. He likes to get his buzz on, all that. That's kind of his defense mechanism against the world. And I asked him if I gave him $10 million, would he agree to never drink again, any alcohol of any kind? And he unequivocally said no. Now, I turned it back on myself and said, would I become a vegetarian and stop eating steaks and barbecue and all the stuff I love for $10 million? And I'm not sure I could pull that trigger either. What's something that you would not be willing to give up for $10 million? Or is there anything you wouldn't be willing to give up?
That's a good question. I think I would give up the alcohol, and I would not give up meat.
No,
what
but
would
I mean,
not give up for 10.
That's what I'm saying. What's in your life that is? Because to me, I love a steak. I love brisket. I love ribs. I love barbecue in general. I love burgers. I don't think I could become a vegetarian for almost any amount of money. I'd have to be paying people to fake me out with all of these fake meats and stuff that are around. But I know they're not real. But is there something in your life that you wouldn't give up for, almost any amount of money?
I mean, I think there's a lot of things. Man, I don't know, like watching LSU games, I don't think I would give that up. Like if you told me you could never watch another LSU game again in your life. I think one of the big ones for me I think this would be a good one. Would you never travel again? You'd have all this money, but you couldn't use it to travel.
Well,
I'm a big traveler.
Rogers would give that up in a heartbeat. He's an isolationist. So Rogers...
it wouldn't bother some people. It bothered me.
Yeah, I mean, I travel for my job constantly. I don't travel as much for leisure, but I travel a lot for my own work. And part of that travel is I like to go eat at different places and try new things, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know that I'd give up travel if I had to just stay at my house the whole time. I don't think I'd do that. I can't imagine that.
I definitely couldn't give up meat. See, I just like, if you're not happy, what's the point of having all this money? Like, what are you going to do with it? You know, like if you never eat meat again, like, so basically you're not going to like use the money on like nice dinner. Well, you can have nice dinners without meat, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Or like for me,
They wouldn't be
every summer I like
dinners.
to go travel somewhere.
Yeah, they wouldn't be satisfying dinners if you didn't have meat in there somewhere. Sorry,
you can throw it in that someone gets to eat your favorite dish in front of you, but you can't have it.
It's that funny you say that. When my mom stopped smoking, she was like a 30-year smoker. And when she stopped smoking, the first 5 or 6 years, if she saw someone smoking, she would walk up to them and ask them to blow smoke in her face just so she could smell it.
You know, that's like something right out of an episode of Friends, right?
Probably. The one where they blow smoke in my face. Oh.
There's a Friends episode that he almost does the exact same thing.
Well, that's yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, now that you mention it, I do remember that. Well, as always, Katherine, it is an absolute blast to chat with you. Oh, one last thing before we go. Were you a little surprised that Zach Strief announced he was leaving the booth and heading back to coach?
I was surprised. I probably shouldn't have been. He always works with a lineman at training camp. So that kind of element of his life was still always there, even though he wasn't a coach. But when I first heard the news, I was really surprised. I mean, he hasn't been doing it that long. But hey, I mean, his explanation, it's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
He knows he's choosing a very difficult lifestyle. And I mean, he knows that. And that kind of shows how much football means to him in his life. Like, you're willingly going down this path that's going to be hard when he already had a pretty good job that's a lot less stress. So best of luck to him. And I think he'll be a great coach. I really do. I think his personality just kind of dictates it. And I mean, he loves what he does. And hey, I really hope he has a lot of success at it.
No, I agree with you. Plus, for anyone that's ever been in the media, you will know this, Katherine. Rogers and I know this. Much more lucrative to coach than it is to broadcast. Just there's
sure, but you know, you get to go home at normal hours and not sleep on your couch and not have to. Well, the lucky journalists don't have to move, every few years, but coaches, it's basically a given.
Yeah,
and he even referenced that in his interview. But yeah, you're right.
Now the money's better, but as you said, there's some other perks that are not a part of it as well. Katherine, you're the best. Always fun to chat with you, as usual. And whenever Drew Brees retires, we're looking forward to you writing the column that brings us all to tears.
Hey, I'm going to try my best.
All right. Thanks, Kat.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Katherine Terrell from The Athletic in New Orleans.